Welcome back, Everyday Business Leaders. I'm Melanie Ake, your host for today's show, coming to you from JP the Geek studio right here in Greenwood, Indiana. I am thrilled to have you with us today. Stay tuned because you're going to hear from Jill Lehman, CEO and founder of Evolve HR Group and High Frequency Arts. So stay with us. And remember, join me and connect to our website and subscribe to our channel because you will never miss an episode if you're ready for the next business leader and community leader. Here we go. Let's meet Jill. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Melanie.
This is awesome. You came all the way down from Fishers.
I did. It was like going to another country when you think about Fishers to Greenwood anymore.
Yeah, and we're recording on a Friday afternoon, so kind of funny if you don't live in Indiana.
Yes.
You're thinking, well, what does that mean? It's like the road to Baghdad, right?
Yes, it's like pack a lunch.
Yeah, pack a lunch
sure.
and maybe dinner and maybe breakfast for the next morning.
Hey, that's okay. We're going to have fun while it lasts, and then I'll get back in the car and head back.
Exactly. Well, thank you first for coming in because I have followed you for a long time and I love what you're doing. You've had some challenges over the last few years and the companies that you're building. This is a program to celebrate you, celebrate your business and help people realize what it takes to be a leader and lift and elevate themselves in the community. So I would love for you just to kind of give people an update. What got you into the HR arena first? And then we're going to talk about the arts.
Sure. What got me into HR was really like you hear so many other careers is I started out after college in a role in operations and really was enjoying that, and then had a leader come to me and say, hey, would you like to do a rotational assignment in HR? And of course, I knew nothing about HR, didn't really understand even how I would be qualified to do something in HR. And 20 plus years later, I'm still in that rotational assignment and I've never looked back. So
did anybody inspire you to kind of follow that path? A mom, a mentor, an aunt?
Not on the HR side. On the business side, most definitely. My father is a business owner. My grandfather was a business owner. So I knew in my DNA somewhere down the road I would want to own my own business. And of course, that came a little bit later in life. But I think they were my biggest inspirations when it came to the business side, for sure.
Well, and to think about HR, a lot of people say HR is supposed to be your best friend, but a lot of people, the stigma, right, is I'm afraid to go to my HR manager because I think they have more of a relationship with the boss. And so I'll get in trouble if I go to my HR manager. And that's really not the case. You guys do so much education in the HR space as an industry. Like you are there to protect the employees.
Yeah, I really went into HR with that mindset that, really being an advocate for both the business and helping employees understand the business aspects and why what we do in our jobs matters and makes sense for the business, for our customers' growth, right? Because when we all win, right? So that was very important to me, but also to be a voice for employees in the C-suite where oftentimes they don't have a voice. And, that was really important to me to make sure I captured both sides of the equation when I went into human resources. And still something from that day one to 20 plus years later, I talk about all the time is that balance.
Such an advocacy, right? I think that's one of the positions if people are listening to this today and thinking about, hey, I'd like to do a job change, or I've never explored that, or our company doesn't have an HR department. We're small. And so why does that position matter in companies specifically?
Every company, no matter what type of business you are associated with people. So whether it's manufacturing, whether it's professional services, hospitality, people are the primary aspect in your business. The jobs that they do may be very, very different. The clientele might be very different. But it's really people who are the engine to make things happen. And it's important part of an overall business strategy to really make sure that how we are engaging our people, training our people, responding to our people are part of it, because they're so critical in the overall success.
It's so important. And I really want to shine with what you do, because you've grown your company, and you're such kind of a stable force in our community for leaning into leaders and leaning into companies saying, hey, we can do this better, right? So the strategies behind that, tell me about some of the opportunities that you have helped kind of elevate and change the culture in these companies.
Yeah, I've spent the last several decades just working in the space of culture and engagement, even maybe before it was cool. Talking to companies and understanding the dynamic that, organizations can have the same footprint from one location to another, maybe. And within that ecosystem or environment, they can have access to all the same things. Budgets are the same, right? Resources are the same. But the operation can look very, very different when it comes to its performance, its turnover, its safety records, all of the things. And a big component of that is culture and engagement and leadership. So that became a very fascinating topic for me, working across multi-site locations in retail and manufacturing, professional services, that could exist, and why did that exist? And it really got down to people and leadership. And that fascination is probably the grassroots of not only why I've spent the last 20 plus years in human resources, but how that other career in art was eventually launched.
And I love that bridge. Before we go there, though, I want to ask you, because I want to talk about this concept of COVID. We can't leave that, miss that from the table. What has changed? What do you see that people are struggling with the most? When COVID happened, right, we had to manage differently. And that gave us opportunities to create new things, which is kind of the arts, right? But what is the biggest challenge that you're seeing right now for people that are trying to hire the right people, that are trying to get people to be committed to their culture? When I think a lot of leaders are still trying to figure it out, right, past COVID. What's your professional opinion? Like, how do we get this right?
Oh, gosh. We could have a podcast just on this
I
topic.
know.
But I think it's a couple things. One, I think is connectivity and purpose. I think we all came out of COVID with those two deep senses of, I need to be connected. I need to be doing something that I feel drives my purpose, not only an organization's purpose, but something I feel purposeful about. And probably development, too, of a sense of community, I would say, would be the triad in that equation.
So if people are looking for jobs right now, I know we've had a lot of training, a lot of groups are looking at how do we elevate, how do we communicate this message for people that are looking for the right employer, right? And that's hard to look at on paper or on LinkedIn. And so how do they know, like, maybe what would be the right fit? Are there some questions that they might be able to ask a little bit deeper to discover, like, is this going to be a good fit for me?
Yeah, I always say just as much as employers should do their diligence on individuals, individuals should do their diligence on companies. And that's going below the surface of maybe what we see on the job profile, what we may see in the social media, and really dig deeper into proof points of what they're talking about, or especially when it comes to culture, core values, that those, I use the word proof points a lot, proof points exist in that environment. So an example of that is if an organization says that they're a creative, innovative organization, ask for examples of that. And they should be readily available for you very quickly, or find someone who's worked in the organization or worked in the organization and ask questions. Just do a little diligence and look for those proof points.
And there's a lot of ways that we can do that, right?
Lots of ways.
You can do a lot of research very quickly online.
Very much.
So that leads me to kind of this art, like high frequency art. So how did you kind of lean into this bridge of this art? Like that's emotional, right? That's a whole nother area of, if you're really talking about human relations and connecting to the soul. How did this happen?
Gosh, if someone would have asked me 10 years ago, would you own an art business and be in HR, I would have said, no, how does that work? But that's how it landed. And it really started, I've always had a love and appreciation for the arts. I dabbled in art myself, even through my younger years. I've always been around a lot of artists and musicians, friends, family. And when I've gotten the fortunate ability to travel across my career, I always would find myself saying, hey, can we go to the art museum? Or, hey, there's a gallery street in this city. Can we go? And I never really thought of it much more than just my love and appreciation for art. But then in my career as a chief people officer and those all other duties as assigned, I became chief administration officers, with a lot of times facilities is included in that. And so I would be responsible not only for culture and engagement, but facilities. And I knew that if we were going to talk about culture and engagement and have core values of things like innovation and creativity, again, what were going to be our proof points that these things existed in our organization. And that had to be from everything from the policies that we wrote to the visuals in our workspace that inspired that. And most of corporate America, even 10, 15 years ago, either came with 1990s art, because that's when the building was put together, or gray walls, white walls, brown walls, high cubicles, and it lacked innovation and creativity. And I had always brought art into my office, and I just thought it was decor, and I liked it, but I didn't really realize what it did for me in my office, in my space. So I started to just talk to the business as we were looking to do some of this interior design work, and would talk to interior designers at the time and say, I really want a strategy around art. And they would say, oh, that's great, when we get there. And if there's budget, if there's this, or I would talk about, can we bring art? And someone would say, well, I have a brother, a cousin, how that story goes. And I said, no, I really want it more purposeful. I want art that's going to tell the story of who we are, what we're about, and it's even better if the artist connects to that in the work that they do or their personal story. So I started to do it myself. And the CEO and the CFO were crazy enough to give me money to do that. And it worked. It worked. When we covered those walls, conversations started. They could talk about why they liked the pieces. They could talk about why they didn't like the pieces. But it started a conversation. It created a reaction. And that's really what I wanted to do. And I've tried to do my whole career, is disrupting the normal ways we think about things. And once that experiment took hold, I couldn't stop. So I started to really study art and its impact on communities, art and its impact on our mental health, art and its impact in economic development. Mm-hmm. And that just unleashed, what I always say, the angel or the demon in me, whatever it was, that there was something to this. Mm-hmm. And I needed to be an advocate, and I could, just talk about it, or I could do something about it. And I also had moved back to Indianapolis, and at that time, we were absent a lot of art galleries. We were absent a lot of art in spaces. And I remember being told, well, there's, most art in Indiana is craft. It's not really commercially used art. Mm-hmm. And I had to discover that for myself. Was that true or not? And I found an amazing group of artists that were out there doing the type of work that I thought would be ideal to bring into workplaces and homes. And then that also kind of triggered that other side of HR with career development. So I've spent years helping professionals have careers, think about careers. Now it was helping artists have careers. And whether you were a studio artist and you wanted to create art that went in places, or whether you had an art degree and you wanted to work in a gallery, or you wanted to learn consulting, that you could actually use the degree in art you went to school for. That in corporate America, we sat aside and said, what value does an art degree have in our workplace?
Right.
Tremendously, shame on me, shame on leaders for not recognizing the value creatives have. Mm-hmm. And, we could find and interpret the value individuals had who played in sports, and all those attributes that came to it. Artists and creatives did the same thing. And when you study great entrepreneurs, great leaders, many of them are tied to arts. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, they're in some form or fashion artists or musicians themselves.
It's
so again, this is a
right?
fascinating topic for me, that when people say, how did this art lady, HR lady, whatever she is, come to be? And how does that all go together? And how does that make sense? That's the story.
It does make sense, though, because when you think about innovation, right, it starts somewhere. And for years, been in industries for years, and it's the soft skills, right? Those are so discounted of like, oh, we need you to learn a skill. But the soft skills, we hope that you have them. That's your character. But the soft skills now, what I hear you say, are really the innovation behind today's business. It's everything.
It's everything.
It's everything.
In business today, it's everything. And I don't, I work with, and I've been in businesses all the way from the front lines in a manufacturing environment, or the front lines, in a home services environment, to the C-suite. Mm-hmm. And innovation is required. Problem solving, solution finding is required at every single level in an organization today. Mm-hmm. It's critical.
Hi, I'm Melanie Ake, founder of Everyday Leaders, and I'm excited to share with you a new training resource for your team called The Leadership Game. The Leadership Game is a tool. It's administered exclusively by John Maxwell team members. And when you bring this assessment tool in to lead your organization, it shows you the current level of your leadership and gives you tangible and actionable results to move forward. So don't delay. Get in the game, The Leadership Game, exclusively from Everyday Leaders. It's critical in the mental health piece, right? That has been, since COVID, I think people have permission to be vulnerable about, hey, I need more space to think about this. But even having creative outlets in companies to say, here's an art room, right? Mm-hmm. Go have the technology. Here at JP the Geek, there's a game room. Mm-hmm. There's high stress. So there's an outlet for people to get that energy out. But I think you're right. If we can continue to talk about how do we inspire innovation, and that's what this show is about. Really want to connect people to think differently. Like if you're not doing it, if you're just going to Walmart or Target and buying art for the walls, that's a great step, right? It's not just the plain cubicles. But here, when you're saying pairing artists to give them opportunities for careers, Like, that's huge, because typically you say starving artist, that's no joke, right? They want to create from their heart, and then who can appreciate that? So I love that you have really embraced this idea of like, let's give people opportunities to connect at a deeper level.
Absolutely. It's, we go back to helping people with purpose and connectivity and community, and those are all things that also resonate with me in what we do.
Mm-hmm. So for people that don't know where your studio is, where is High Frequency Arts?
So High Frequency Arts is in Fishers, Indiana. We're in the Hub and Spoke Design Center. So we have our gallery and art consulting project management offices there. We also are the art curators for the Hub and Spoke Design Center. So there is art all through the building available. We rotate everything out in the design center every quarter and bring in different artists. We host an event for those artists that are on display and pick a charitable organization at the same time during our open house to support them as well. So we have a great time. It's a great evening out. Support art, support artists, support charitable organizations, support a small, woman-owned business. I mean, you hit the trifecta of everything when you're able to attend one of our events.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful cause. And I think, to elevate people, to educate them about, hey, wherever you are in the city, it's not necessarily downtown at the Stutz building like everybody used to say that's where it is. But there have been so many communities built, especially Fishers, Noblesville, like that's kind of the crux of where this is exploding. And so for you to be in that kind of metric, I think it's really great. So people need to find you and experience it.
It is. And it was the same thing when I went to Fishers and put the space in. I heard you're an HR person, you'll never make it in art. You're not an interior designer, so you'll never be able to consult. You're in Fishers, you'll never survive. I mean, if I would have listened to all of the feedback that I got from, I asked for a lot of feedback, and I got great feedback on both sides. But if I would have gone with the fear side, I wouldn't have either of my businesses today. And, I wouldn't have an art gallery and business that's now 7 years strong. And in the world of art, 7 years is a long, long time, and I'm very grateful and also very proud of my team and what they've accomplished in an area that we heard so many negative things about. No one will connect art with culture and people. I mean, there were so many things said to me from that perspective. So for all of you that are listening, that are thinking about starting your own business, if you believe in it and you can find others who believe in it, then there's likely something real, and don't give up. So really, if you're passionate about it, try to figure it out, because there's a lot of people who will tell you no. You're the biggest person to tell yourself yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. You're the biggest person to tell yourself yes. Mm-hmm. So true. So, okay, so what inspires you? Like, if you could take a trip right now and say, I want to go visit this place because I really need that inspiration. It's my quiet space, or I love to plan that. It's on my bucket list. I want to go get the inspiration to fill my soul. Where is that?
Oh, gosh. So when it comes to the place that I just like to be creative and be, whether I'm in the art space or the HR space, I love to go to my art gallery, right? Where else can you be inspired but being around art? And all the different artists that I've gotten to know personally over the years, they're a family to me. Discovering those new artists and just being around it. It's a higher energy level, and we all need those higher energy levels. So that's probably my local go-to place, and you're all welcome to stop by and see us there. And then if I could go anywhere, I mean, I love Miami. It's a great art scene. So I love New York, great art scenes. I still think continuing travels through Europe, because, the amount of art and the historical art that you find, because, again, whole nother podcast, but art tells our past, art tells our present, art tells our future. there's so much robust history in other countries around the past of art. And quite honestly, what will ultimately be the future of art to the next, generations.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're bringing that here locally. That's what I think is so cool about what you're doing. You can travel to Europe and you think, wow, we tear everything down in America. Mm-hmm. We can't even have somebody paint something because it's torn down in 20 years.
Yeah.
But I love just your heart to serve and really connect people. And so I think it makes total sense when I heard, oh, it's HR and art. Of course that makes sense, right? It's just bringing you to give yourself permission to do something different in a different way.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, don't be stuck in the paradigms that exist today. Create your own.
Mm-hmm. I love that. We talk about leadership so much, and it's these gaps that I always teach people that they are either fearing that perfection gap, that knowledge gap. They don't know how to do anything first. And so from a mentor standpoint, what do you recommend to people that are like trying to start something? What's the best way to find the right mentor for them to get that confidence?
I think there's a couple things. Is one, know what you're looking for before you go and ask for it. So I oftentimes get a lot of people wanting a mentor to help them find it for themselves. Mm-hmm. And a mentor can do that, absolutely. But I think you have to do a little soul searching yourself first to say, what am I really passionate about? Or what are the challenges that I'm having that I need somebody to help me with? And once you at least have an idea of what those are, then start looking around on who might be able to help you close those gaps that you have, or and then don't be afraid to ask, because the worst thing they're going to say is no. Mm-hmm. But they might say yes, or they might say, I'm not the best person or the best place, but I can tell you who might be, and that may be your next lead. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be my advice. Do a little soul searching first yourself, and then once you find out what it is, ask for it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's great advice, because so many people right now I talk to, they're still stuck, right? They may have been transitioning and they're not really sure what they want to do. They're not really sure how to get inspired again. And kind of in Indiana, it's the gray season, yes. So we don't have a lot of sunshine. But this show is going to come out on Valentine's Day, which I just love, because you're all about the heart and helping people shine. I want to do one more thing before we close out.
Sure.
I have this, if you guys have been following, we have this food for thought, which is great inspirational quotes. So I thought, what a great time for Jill to come in and draw a card, and let's talk about the quote of inspiration. So pick a great one.
All right. Let me see here. Let's see what this is going to be. I can feel this one.
There you go.
Okay. How do you react when you make a mistake? That is a good one.
Oh, my gosh.
So I think I do what most people do. And if you know anything about energy levels, you have high energy levels and you have low energy levels. And I think I do what most people do, is I start off low. I start up with, why is this happening? Why me? All of the noise that hits your head when you make a mistake. And guess what? That's okay. Mm-hmm. It's when we get stuck in that for a long period of time and don't say, okay, I made a mistake. What can I learn? How can I do it better? Who do I need to apologize to? Mm-hmm. Right? And move ourselves up the continuum, because it is normal to go to a lower level of energy and feel that blame, self-doubt, all those things that come with that. I call it the ick energy. But you got to pull yourself out and then figure out how to make it valuable through the lesson learned or the right thing you need to do. So that's what I do.
That's great. So you're all about high frequency. Right?
There's a story about how the name high frequency came, and it was really about it being disruptive and thinking at a higher frequency level, viewing things at a higher frequency level. So,
Well,
sure.
and it's can you share that with us?
Yeah, the story?
Yes.
All right. So when I started to go out and look for a name for the business, I went out to all of my, what I would call my board of advisors, which were friends, CEOs, mentors, and I had like my list of names and that I had been thinking about. And I started to share the names, and I'd gotten some good feedback and some other names maybe that to put on the list. But the one that kept coming to me was high frequency. And there's a local, I believe him to be, he's been a great friend, a mentor. He is a CEO. He's a creator. He's an innovator. He's in tech. And I went to him, and he's looking at the list, and he said, "Oh, you got some good ones here, but I don't like high frequency." And I was like, "Really? Why?" And he's like, "Because when I think of high frequency, I think of radio, I think of noise, and it's disruptive. And so I don't like it." And I said, "Oh my gosh, you just named my business." Because I have been pulled to that name, and you just validated why. And he said, "So the name I hated the most is what you're going with?" So that's the kind of interesting story around high frequency arts and how ultimately, out of all the names on the list, that came to be.
I love that. Well, the disruptive mindset, right? I want people to embrace that. It is so important in today's world of saying, like you said, don't compare yourself. Don't be afraid. Take the risk. Lean in. Get the right mentor. And just try things that really speak to your heart.
Absolutely.
So.
Often you won't go wrong. You may have some missteps. You may go back. You may go sideways. But most of the time, you'll find your way through.
Jill, thank you for coming today. This has been just a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better and have you here and celebrate you with both of the things that you're doing for Evolve HR Group and High Frequency Arts. I want people to come and lean into you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me too. And it's been such a pleasure in this conversation. It went so fast.
I know.
Our time went so fast.
I know.
So
Come back.
I will absolutely come back, and maybe we'll have you stop at the space sometime and do a little
Absolutely
live session there.
Absolutely. You know, we love to promote on social media, so
Love it.
we will be there. And this is releasing on Valentine's Day. So if you could leave one last thought for people about what do you want them to do or feel this Valentine's Day?
Love themselves.
Okay.
Because if you don't love yourself, how will someone else love you? And you matter. You're important, and it starts with self-love.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. What a great way to end this program. I love this. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, love yourself. And in Everyday Leaders, we really want to encourage you to get inspired and think and grow differently. So I hope today that you've listened to Jill. If you need to rewind this, the old days, right? Go back and listen to this with your journal and take lots of these notes. And please go visit her and stop in and get inspired. Remember, the journey of growth and innovation never ends. And it's our mission to keep bringing you the best insights from our local community. So stay tuned for more episodes filled with wisdom, innovation, and inspiration. This is Melanie Ake signing off from JP the Geek Studio, where better IT service is just a call away. They say own it, secure it, and protect it. Until next time, don't forget, subscribe to our channel and turn those notifications on so you never miss an episode. Everyday Leaders helps you to develop strategies to become a better leader in your life. It's not what you do in a day. It's what you do every day that makes the most impact. Thanks for following us.